Okay, number one. Now, working on this, basically all the stuff we're doing, but we want to make sure that, like, we're taking our fingers off right when right when it's supposed to be. So you got to make sure you time that release and the pick at the exact same time, and then when you put it back down, make sure you time the pick and the fretting at the exact same time too. So this is really making sure we focus on that synchronization here. So what could happen, which we want to avoid, and I want you to be aware of how it could sound, like maybe you let go too soon and you'll have something like that happen. So that's like an accidental pull off. Not really a good pull off, but still, like once you let go, that could happen if you're not careful. The other thing that could happen is you could put your finger down too soon and then create like an accidental hammer on. So you gotta be careful of that. So if you hear like a note happen if you let go too soon, or if you notice that a note happens before you pick because you put your finger down too soon, those are things that we want to fix. That's what we're paying attention to make sure it doesn't happen. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. $120. 1, 2, 3, 4. $180. 1, 2. Whoops. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. $240. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll go back to 180 for the repeats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, number 2. So this one, make sure your index finger stays down the entire time. The only time it's supposed to move is just to get into the next position. So after you've put that finger down, you should have 2 fingers down at that point. Get a little buzzy there. Might need to make some adjustments. So yeah, that's like the only time you're really going to move it is to go up to the 7. And back to the 5. So just like the other one, make sure you're not getting any accidental hammer-ons or accidental pull-offs because you're putting your finger down or taking it off too soon. So here we go. Whoops. 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. $120. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a terrible ending. 1, 2, 3, 4. $180. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 240. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And back to 180 for the repeats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And number 3, this is to make sure no unwanted strings are ringing out. So double check your right hand placement before you start playing. Make sure you get those strings covered. 1, 2, 3, 4. $120. 1, 2, 3, 4. $180. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. $240. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wrong note. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 180 for the repeats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so let's go over the suggestion I had on how to practice this. So yeah, use that loop feature Guitar Pro has, and every time you learn a new line or basically a new scale shape, get like 3 perfect attempts in a row. So just loop it, get 3 in a row to make sure that you definitely have it down. And just watch your left hand to make sure that you got it down. Because if you have to watch Guitar Pro, then you don't have it memorized. So definitely use it as much as you need to get started, but eventually you need to just be watching your left hand there to make sure you get it correct. So once you got that done, then you start working on the second line, which is the second scale shape. Once that is memorized, then you go play both of those. Once you got those memorized, then you start working on the third line. Once you have the third line memorized, you're going to do lines 2 and 3. Once those are memorized, then you do 1, 2, and 3. And then you get this down. Fourth line. Once the fourth line is memorized, then you got to play lines 3 and 4 together. And then you do 2, 3, and 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So remember, every time you add a new line or go to the new line, work your way back to the start. So don't just go to the start. Go to the previous line, and then add the previous line, until you're back to the beginning again. So that's the strategy to get all that down. And yeah, use Guitar Pro, make it more fun. Guess you don't have to, but I think it'll make it more interesting. Practicing with the backing tracks, definitely keep doing that. It's a fantastic thing to do. It helps with your improvisation, creativity, fretboard visualization, all that stuff. But yeah, it is going to be helpful to get all the shapes memorized, just up and down, one after the next, just like this. Number 5 here, this is to help get your diminished shapes memorized. So this is focusing only on starting on the A string and getting this movable shape down. So every time you play the diminished chord here, it's the exact same shape. effects here. Okay. Yeah, every time it'll end up being the same. So as you're working your way down, basically you start with either a major or a minor chord. Whatever the root note is for that chord, so in this case G major, will turn into G diminished. So we keep the same root note. F major turns into F diminished. E minor turn into E diminished. D minor turns into D diminished. C turns into C diminished. And we'll just move down to B diminished because that's the next one that actually is in key. And then we'll just jump down to A minor to finish it all off there. So any speed is totally fine with this. So if you want to do it slower, that's okay. But here's what we have at 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pick this any way you want, totally fine. That is that. So I can't remember if we talked about it last night. Probably not, because it was the end of the night and my brain is shutting off. I left a note in this month's invoice that I'm going to be gone next week, because that's when I'm going to see Iron Maiden. So yeah, I just want to make sure that you knew that. So we'll be back again in 2 weeks. Send over videos whenever you feel ready. And any questions, let me know. I'll see you again in 2 weeks.